Hi, it's Hans at ahappierman.com. Today's topic is leaving a verbally abusive wife when you have children. Well, I don't want to imply that I know the answers to all your problems. I can only share what I know and what I've done and what the research I've done shows. So I did leave my verbally abusive wife. I detail the book and my mindset and how I did it and what was going on at the time in my book. Leave Your Wife and Become a Happier Man with a 3-step system, available on the ahappierman.com website. There's some links in the description below. But I left her when I did have children. I have 2 children, a boy and a girl. They're adults now, but when I left, they were children. They were around maybe 8 and 11, right around that age. And truthfully, I should have left my verbally abusive wife years before I did. It would have been much better and easier for me to recover as a younger man. I would have had more time. Things might not have been so financially devastating for me as they were. But I did stay. I did stay quite a while. It took a long time for me to build up the courage to leave. It took a while to figure out, well, when is the right time. It took a while to decide, to determine that this verbal abuse that I was suffering from is never going to go away. And that even if she did relent a little bit and not be quite so hard, the damage had been done, and there's no way that I can spend the rest of my life with this person. But yeah, like I said, I had the kids, and when I left, I left the kids with her, and then the divorce process. The kids spent most of their time with her. And that's just how it was. And then through a variety of twists and turns of fate over the next number of years, the kids eventually came back to be with me. So I was, let's say, the full-time dad and the full-time mom to finish raising them. And that was satisfying and sweet, and the kids both are doing very well. But when I left, yes, it was extremely hard on the children, my children, hurt our children. It was very hard. I think the mother, my ex-wife, she tried to be a good mother, but then for a variety of reasons, she just couldn't. The kids had to leave her and come with me. But let's say in the short run, when the dad leaves the house, yeah, it's going to be really bad on the kids. I have a number of chapters in the book about this. I did extensive research on the effects of divorce on children. And yes, in general, divorce is very hard on children and should be avoided. But what my research showed is the verbal abuse that the children are going to witness on their mother to their father, in this case me, is going to be so much harder on them that they may never recover. And certainly you will never recover if you stay with a verbally abusive spouse. Your life is in the toilet. It's never going to get better. The only way you have a chance at a good life is to leave your verbally abusive wife. Only way you have a chance of a good life. And that at a minimum, you don't want your children to be witnessing this verbal abuse that your wife is laying on you. So there's probably a couple ways to think of this. If your wife is just verbally abusive to you in private and wonderful and sweet to you in public, and especially in front of your children, that may be a consideration. In my case, she wasn't overly verbally abusive to me in public. There was enough episodes that were very, very uncomfortable, but probably could have dealt with that. She was pretty vicious in private, pretty vicious, no holding back when it was just her and I. But then in front of the children, she could be pretty tough on me in front of the children, to the point where the children are afraid and trying to stick up for me, and they didn't want to see it, right? Because they love me, right? And they love their mother, and they don't want to see this horrible behavior play out in front of them. And looking back, it might have been good for me and them to, at the first sign of verbal abuse, to leave, so they don't have to witness it. So it's, these are heart-wrenching, emotionally laden times that is just gonna, the verbal abuse is gonna wreck your life. Your kids seeing you verbally abused, it's gonna wreck their lives too. And that's my view, and I couldn't go on, part of the decision, I couldn't go on staying with my verbally abusive wife and letting my kids see her verbally abuse me, right? Because one, my son is that how I want him to be, that just to sit there and absorb this verbally abuse? When he gets married, is that going to be his life too? That's the pattern you're going to train your children in, is that the guy is going to take the verbal abuse. And then I have a daughter, so I didn't want to train her to say, well, this is how a woman treats her husband. She verbally abuses him, right? How do I know that the guy that she ends up with isn't going to snap and harm her? Right? These kind of thoughts just were on my mind continually during the time I was being verbally abused. How do I want my kids? How do I want their lives to play out? I wanted their lives to play out that they're not going to be involved in a relationship with a person who verbally abuses them. They're going to leave. They're not going to tolerate it. The first time it happens, they're out of there. They're not going to suffer for long periods of time like I did. I showed them how a happier person lives is by leaving. And that's the bottom line for me. And I think you, as a verbally abused man with children, should give this some extreme thinking and not assume that because you have children that you should stay. There's probably times sometimes when the children, it's not that great to leave. Yeah, I will admit that. If the child is a baby, wow, it's going to be really, the logistics of leaving is going to be extremely difficult. When you got a lot going on, like during the school year, the logistics are going to be a nightmare. I left in the summer, and that was, I think, a good time. The kids weren't in school. They didn't have enormous commitments. It was, let's say, a convenient time to leave. Didn't make it any easier, but let's say logistically and convenience-wise, it was a good time to leave in the summer. Certainly, Christmas time, that might be a tough time to leave. When there's if there's enormous upheaval in the family, that would be tough to leave too. I know in the years prior to me leaving, there was, on her side of the family, there was lots of health and things going on that I just that was a consideration. I just didn't think it would be good to leave at that time. But at that time in my life, I didn't really think that I mattered that much. So until you get that firmly planted in your mind that you matter, you're going to think that everyone else matters more, and that your decision to leave will be hinged on what other people think rather than what you think. And I go into all of this in my book. So if this sounds like something that's weighing heavily on your mind, you should check out my article on the happierman.com website. I got a long article about the book to see if it's something you ought to buy. And of course, I'd like you to buy it, right? It will certainly open your mind to the possibility of leaving your wife by reading the book. I go into great detail about how I changed my mindset from being a verbally whipped, abused man to getting enough confidence to leave. And then you can see on my happierman.com website, I've been enjoying the heck out of my life all these years since, and everything is just spun up to be how I have created my life to be very, very, very happy. So give this idea, give it extreme thought. This, just because you have children doesn't mean you have to stay. But I do know that because you have children, you're going to want to be pick and choose your moments. You can be a very, very, very good dad being divorced. I consider my years after I left my wife to be like the key moments when I've really been there for my kids. I am there for them. I was there for them. I'm there for them now, and I'm providing them as much love, kindness, respect, and care, and whatever I can give to them. You're going to want to do that as a good dad. I know you're a good dad if you just got yourself involved with the wrong lady. And maybe you leaving your wife will make her improve as a mother. Certainly in the short run, I think my ex-wife did improve as a mother, but then just the issues just contributed to her to being a bad mother. So I wasn't really much of a father when I was being verbally abused by my wife. I was just trying to survive, walking on eggshells, trying not to make her upset, doing whatever I can to avoid her, being a good, loving, strong, powerful, with it, father who was there for his kids. No, that wasn't what I was doing. And when I left her, I flipped the script on all of that and decided that I'm going to be the best dad I can. I'm just not going to be there every day. When I was with them, I was just doing whatever I could. And I thought, like I said, there's got quite a bit of guidance in the book to kind of help you work through these issues in your mind of how to think about this in a more productive way for your long-term health and well-being. I couldn't, another thing, I couldn't be a good dad because, I just wanted to die young. How can I be there for my kids as they're growing up, in their teenagers, in their 20s, as they're growing, if I'm, wanting to die, right? So I flipped that to I want to live, and I want to be there, and I want to be there for my kids, and I want them to not model the horrible behavior they were seeing by their parents. I didn't want my daughter to turn into a verbally abusive lady. I didn't want my son to turn into a verbally abused man, or the other way, right, where my daughter's getting verbally abused and my son is being the verbal abuser, right? I showed them that this horrible behavior cannot be tolerated, and it will not happen in my life again. And I'm hoping that it never happens in their lives. And it is my mini crusade to help others not deal with this horrible problem. So give this idea some thought. All for now.